Welcome back. Welcome back to Full Circle with Mikali. We're talking about love, addiction, and attachment injuries that come with all of that. And the question to you today is: have you been in a relationship where you're struggling with addiction and it's hurting you, hurting them, hurting people around you? What are the things that are being said around you and to you because probably you're in a relationship with someone who is struggling with an addiction? 111 Send in all your questions, comments, and we'll have Shazmin just answer all the questions that you send in. Shazmin, we've gotten to a point where we've seen all the dynamics that are in this relationship and the voices that we're hearing from outside the relationship, and you wanting to leave and not feeling very good about yourself for wanting to walk away, feeling not strong enough to walk away, feeling that you need to save them, to help them, but you're still, giving up because they're not giving you or filling you up. But then when you talk about tough love, how does that even look?
You know, it's interesting because I was talking to a lady that's been with a man that's an alcoholic, and she absolutely loves him and she will not leave. That's the decision that she has made.
Yeah.
And she says if she could talk to her younger self, she wishes she could tell her younger self a lot more. She wishes she could have probably told her younger self, see the signs early, know what the cost is going to be in a relationship like this. And she says the cost is huge because the financial burden is fully on her. Motherhood, fatherhood is fully on her. And the funny thing, even as I say this though, is when we had to do our play, if you remember.
Yes.
And I had to be the lady who's been with the man for 25 years, who is an alcoholic.
Yes.
To even get into that role, I had to, research and see what is it like in a deeper way for me to want to stay and to want to leave. And to get into that character at some point, when I really did cry, it was from the pain of experiencing it, even though I never ever have.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine what people are going through in a situation like that. But she turned around and she said, I would tell my younger self, be strong because you do not understand what you're choosing to get into. And she says, it's a choice that I have made now, which is to stay. And she's like, so in me staying, which means I'm going to stop blaming him, I'm going to stop looking for what's wrong, I'm going to support him through the journey because her husband was really trying. And every time he went for the help abroad, he came back and, there was a different insight to the problems all the time. But he's not working, so everything purely falls on her. But she says, and I asked her, what would you tell someone that's getting into a relationship like that or has no idea? And she says, think about the cost. Think about the rest of your life. She's like, because it's not going to be the fantasy that is in your head, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's a fantasy, and every time they are not drunk or they are not going through what they're going through, they feed your fantasy, and you think that that will be the rest of your life. And she's like, the tough love that you can give is to say, I love you enough to not jump into this with you. But if you love us enough, you will look for the help and you will get it. And it's stages, because the way it's 4 stages to reach the point where you realize I'm an alcoholic. There's stages to be able to get out of that. And nobody immediately goes into the emotional trauma. Nobody even knows sometimes to go deep within. Sometimes people look into your past to deal with trauma, but a lot of the times it's also the trauma of now. I know people that got into alcohol because of COVID, because things got so tough, and what was a simple drink now became what's numbing them. They're now sleeping in their cars. They're now feeling, I cannot provide. The burden is so huge on me and I can't share this with my spouse. So instead, I'll share it with the bottle, and I'll hope that the situation will get better, and then at some point I'll be able to leave it. But you don't realize that you're already addicted at some point and you can't leave it, and you can't solve this side either. So I had a surprising encounter last week of somebody that I never thought would be in a problem like that. And they said the burden of having to hold a whole company together and hold an entire family and give them the maintaining life that they've always given them was so tough that nothing came or stemmed from their childhood. It just seemed like the easier option. And after a couple of drinks, the numbing was great. They were not dealing with it anymore. And suddenly they could be the husband the wife was looking for a while. But it was temporary. So that's why it's so complex, because you can't just put it down or pin it down to childhood trauma. You can't just pin it down to the moment somebody's going through. It's the depression, it's the anxiety, it's just all the uncertainty, all the suffering in the moment that comes out. And that one day you snap, and that's the simpler way. And it starts with, I was listening to a woman that says, to deal with the anxiety, I have to talk in my job. I need to be a powerhouse in my job.
Yeah.
And the only way for me to do that would be, to have a sip, to have a glass, to then have a bottle. And she's like, nobody realized that slowly I led into isolation, because she's like, it stopped being social drinking.
Yes.
She's like, I was now having to drink in isolation because I was dealing with so much that I felt ashamed, that I was hiding, because everybody looked to me as the grace, as the savior, as we want to be like you, you're like the mentor of the company. And she says the pressure was so overwhelming that she's like, when people would be asleep in the house, when her husband was fast asleep, she was timing the minute she could come down to have a glass just of wine at first, to be able to calm her nerves so she could sleep. And so she's like, it's such a slippery slope going down. And when you're in that state of suffering, you don't know who to reach out to, because there's so much shame that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So anybody that's getting into a relationship with somebody that's in a state like that, the tough love is to be able to say, in order for me to choose us, I'm going to have to choose myself. And if you're in a situation where you're in a marriage where he's coming home and he does not want to change, and the children are suffering, and there's physical abuse, it's way more complicated, because it's very easy to say leave. But the complexity to financially, how do I leave? What do I organize? Where do I go? How do I talk to the kids? What do I say? The first place is with honesty.
Okay.
And you got to be able to be honest with yourself and say, can I stay in this situation for the rest of my life? Am I losing who I am? Is this situation going to push me into a place where I'm going to be of no service to just the immediate people that need me right now? Because clearly I'm of no service to this person at this state. And so you've got to be able to be very honest and choose you. And in order for you to choose you, that means you're the umbrella of everything else that's under you. And so you're taking responsibility of that.
So you choose you while you're still in there, or do you choose you?
You choose you while you're still in there, because you're not going to ever choose yourself after you leave. You recover after you leave.
Yeah.
You have to choose that I want more, and that's why I'm going to leave. And before you leave, you've been through it. You've lived it in your head. You've thought about, what would it be like? What's the pain like? Can I do it financially? What will the children go through? What do I say to them? How do I bridge this together? You've lived that enough times before you say, this is the moment I think I can do it. And it will be hard, and it will be tough, and you will not know sometimes how to get through that. But it's like a car in darkness. The headlights only see a couple of meters ahead. You just got to trust the journey and know that it will take you where you need to go. And that's the simplest, softest way to look at it. Because friends and people around you will be like, just leave him. You find somebody else. Life will get better.
Yeah.
But when you really do sit with people and you work with them and they're going through something like this, it's not that simple. Because they're also then going to grieve the loss of the love they had for you, the loss of that relationship. And with that grief comes anger, comes sadness, comes shock, comes depression, before you reach a place of saying, I accept the choice I've made. I've accepted the fact that the relationship is the way that it is. And it was interesting, just like the woman who chose to stay.
Yeah.
She distinctively said, it's my choice, which means I cannot blame him anymore. But I will support him and do everything it takes because I love him and I know the man that's in there. Which was very interesting from the typical way of how people feel. And
it's like one in I don't know how many people.
Right. And if that's one in how many people, imagine how many people do that.
Yeah.
So I think a situation like this it's already on eggshells. And it's for you to decide, do I want to stay here? Do I want to live here? And how can I help them best? Because attacking them, telling them what's wrong with them, they already know that. They know why they're doing what they're doing. So There's a lot of patience that comes with that. There's a lot of love that comes with that. There's a lot of having to put a bit of you aside to be there for them. So you need to be able to think about, can I do this? Do I have the strength to do this? And then if I do, it's no longer about me, it's fully about them. It's about their recovery and how can I get them through that stage. And so it's going to the right places to get that recovery done.
So there's that kind of addiction where you spend all kinds of money to, satisfy your addiction, not take care of the family. But then there's the one that comes with, I am drunk now and I will say whatever it is that I want to say to you, and tomorrow I'll wake up and say I'm sorry. I will be drunk today and beat you up, and then in the morning I'll be buying you gifts because I don't know what happened. I am so sorry. And then it happens and it happens and it happens. So they are okay until they drink. How do you live through that, even if the money situation is okay?
Here's the tough thing. It's a choice. And that's what nobody ever wants to hear. It's a choice to stay and it's a choice to leave. And if you choose to stay, then you've got to deal with everything that comes with it. And if you choose to leave, maybe that relationship could have a chance if you tell them that the cost of your alcohol is going to be the loss of your family and everything around you. At this point, you've probably lost your work, you've probably lost your financial standing, but you're going to lose your family, which is all of what you have. It's the backbone to the support you've had. But then at what point do you continue to enable the behavior? Because there's a difference with somebody that comes in and says, I need the help. I don't want to lose my family.
Yes.
I'm stuck. Help me get through this. And there's a difference with the people that do not care. It's my life. I'll do what I want. I'm providing. The children are in school. What do you want from me? And obviously then there's the whole other topic of wanting more from a relationship, because love is not going to be enough to take you through a long-term relationship. There's so much more to that. So do you enable the behavior? Do you support them through it? Do you leave at some point when somebody doesn't care enough to change? And is it selfish to leave after you've really tried? No. Because at some point, what's the cost of your mental health?
Yeah.
What's the cost of you being there as a man or a woman with somebody going through that? So you have to sometimes choose you, to choose everything under you, to probably even help the person that's going through that.
When you just say that, it took me back to the story that you did on Dear D, where the society has this thing about women and women staying, and how even the in-laws, they know their child is addicted to alcohol and they've never been able to help their child or save their child, quote unquote. But then they are looking at the wife to be like, you are the one, you're keeping him in check. So you're forced to go back. Society says don't leave. Society says hide the problems in your marriage.
And you stay like your mothers did. And you stay like generations stayed.
Yes.
And I got the whole play in my head by heart.
We're going to take a very short commercial break, but we are taking all of your questions. I'm receiving them right now. We're going to be answering all of them after the break. Have you struggled with addiction in your relationship, in your marriage? Have you tried to seek help? Are you trying to look, where can I go to get the help? Are they willing to do the work? Are they willing to get the help that they need? 111 444 111. That is our SMS line. It's just going to cost you $1 to talk to us. Find us on social media as well. Switch TV KE on Instagram, Switch TV Kenya on Facebook. We will be right back with Shazmin after this break.